You are listening to the ESEE Rat Pack podcast. I am your host today, along with Patrick Rollins and Christian Jones from Christian and Jake's Bistro.
Howdy.
Glad to have y'all here.
Good
and we've got a topic I'm pretty excited about, if I'm being honest, because we are debuting. We've gone on a 2-year hiatus thanks to COVID with no new product. And we're about to drop an entirely new product on our listeners and our audience called the Pinhoti Friction Folder. Patrick and Christian are here because they're going to ask some obvious questions, but they've also been a part of this process that is, about 3 years in the making.
This journey.
Yeah. So, for those of you that are not, we're gonna video this as well, and it will be up on YouTube, and we'll have some photos and some other stuff. So, as a podcast, may not be great, and as a video, it may not be great either. But you at least have some visual aids and other stuff as well.
At least we're consistent.
Yes, we
consistently horrible.
Yeah, we're shooting for low expectations. So Christian and Patrick both have these in their hand, and I actually have the original Pinhoti friction folder that I guess this process has been over 3 years, hadn't it, Patrick?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
How long was your? How long did it take you to get the PR4?
From concept and drawing it to getting prototype, and then going into production, probably about the same, about 3 years.
Yeah,
it's a slow process. You know, people don't realize that.
Why is it slow for us?
Just so many steps involved, and from the design to a prototype, and to making sure that we're happy with that prototype, and letting other people get their hands on it, just to make sure everything's worked out.
Right. So in January of 2020, we debuted our 3D scales. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the last SHOT Show we went to before everything got shut down.
Yep.
Up until this past year. This particular folder, this is the first folder that used our traditional flat micarta scales. This folder had been in the works for almost a year at that point.
Yeah. You want me to hand model it?
Yeah, you can. And so Patrick's playing Vanna for the camera right there. So we just took our traditional micarta scales and started playing with this thing. The funny part about this is I started. I've always been a knife collector even before I got here. Started at a very young age, and I always had a fascination with straight razors. And so I got my first straight razors from my grandfather's, and I just always thought they were kind of cool. And I remember seeing a friction folder years and years ago. And I think it was my very first SHOT Show. I was here. I was with Jeff somewhere. Actually, I was walking by myself, and I found some friction folders that were from South America at the time. Just nobody was, and they had all kinds of different scales and skins, and like they were using eel, and like it was just different. But and it kind of reignited my interest in friction folders, and so I started sketching some out about. But one of the things I haven't really liked about a lot of the traditional friction folders that you see is whenever the knives are open to be used, oftentimes there's a hump or some kind of stop right here, and so it makes it kind of uncomfortable, potentially uncomfortable to use. So that's kind of why when I kind of set about doing this, I just started sketching, didn't really think much about it. And then the hardest part on this thing that I was discovering was the pivot pin right here, and then the stop pin. So there's a stop pin on the inside that's actually on the production model there. It's just getting that spacing right. And so I've got a bunch of different scale drawings and would cut them out and was just playing around with actually like just stick pins on where to move this thing
cool.
and to work through the whole process of trying to figure out how to work the mechanism itself. You wouldn't think it would be that much. You wouldn't think it would be that much of a hassle, but trying to figure out where these things fold and meet, and your handle encapsulates the tip of the blade so it's not sticking up, made it tough. Jeff helped out with that. We started doing, I got a bunch of different 3D models as well, and you can see I had used that original, the one that Patrick hand modeled here. I used this original one with the flat scales. It's like our traditional micarta scales for almost a year. I actually sent it out to Caleb Olender at Bushwalker Outdoors. I asked him to use it. I asked Darren Baird from, what is it?
East Woodland Survival.
I think he's back on Instagram. Yeah. But Darren's been to a bunch of our classes, and we know Caleb well. I wanted Caleb to use it. I just wanted some real-world feedback and some dirt time on this. And the response to this one initially, I wanted something that would be easy, that actually worked, that was more than just a novelty, where it was comfortable to use in the hand. I want it to work on our two primary grips that we use in bushcrafty kind of stuff is monkey fist or fist grip. And then also a reverse chest lever. Yeah. And then I did want it to have a 90-degree spine. I would not recommend scraping a ferro rod with it open, but to scrape tinder or a ferro rod, you use it closed, and you've got a lot of leverage and a very sharp spine. And so that's called a tang there.
The tang.
So I started working on this process about a year in advance. We came out with the 3D scales. I actually sent this. So one of the moderators on our forum is Strigg, who does a lot of leather work. And I sent him some sketches and ideas, and then left it up to him. And so the first sheath that I came up with, and with his help, was a sheath that was made to be worn around the neck. And that's really kind of how I've intended to carry it. This particular one has a Wazoo lanyard on it, and it can be worn tucked in. And this got handed to quite a few people at our bushcraft classes who didn't know what it was and what they were doing. We swore them to secrecy, and so far everybody has done pretty well at keeping the secret. And then along that process, after we came out with the 3D scales, Cody and I started talking again, and Cody got on SolidWorks and created a far more aesthetically pleasing and functional. So adding that thumb scallop. So if you go to reverse chest lever on that reverse chest lever grip, it's got a nice, comfortable thumb scallop, a little more hand feeling, and it just flat. I like how it works.
Yeah, got a good feel to it.
It's got. I like the ergonomics of it. I like the bend to it. If you open this knife and look, it has a little bit of an arc to it, similar to a JG3, and I completely ripped that off from James Gibson because James Gibson has. If you look at a JG3, it kind of has a slight bow in it. I like the way that feels. So taking some of his attention to ergonomics and efficiency. Scandi grind, 0 degree Scandi grind. It's actually the second Scandi grind knife that we have in our lineup. The first is the RB3. I like the Scandi grind. This is definitely made for more of a woodcraft style knife. For Whitland.
So that's what its intended purpose is.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a bushcraft type of knife. So what questions do you guys have from the peanut gallery?
Can you baton with it?
Can you baton with it? I wouldn't recommend it.
Just don't.
But while we're here, let's talk about that. This is our first this is our first folder.
First ESEE made folder.
First ESEE made folder.
How does that feel?
Oh wow.
Well, it feels pretty good.
No pressure.
It is not the Izula Folder, which I'm okay with talking about, as is the 3.0. So let's talk about why it's taken so long. Care to elaborate, Patrick?
Man, I primarily deal with training. That's a Shane question.
That's a significant size. So,
Can I take a guess?
yeah.
This is probably the lock-in mechanism.
So
and the fact that they're way more complicated.
It is a little more complicated. So this really brings in a larger, overreaching answer, is that, being really, really honest, COVID has been the best thing that's ever happened to our business, and we really, it comes with a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
The Rollins did an exceptional job in the first year of COVID, because they had really stocked up on materials, and so we really didn't feel a pinch on the supply chain stuff for the first year. And if I remember right, the last blade show we did was 2020, and we were going to close down for 2 to 3 weeks. You remember that?
Yeah, we didn't do Blade in 2020. That's when all the riots and stuff were going on.
That got canceled.
Yeah.
Okay, but we were heading into that
Yeah.
within like a few weeks,
Yeah.
actually a few days of not real sure, and I think they pulled the plug.
Yeah.
We debuted the 3.0, the CR 3.0, in Blade of 2020 that never happened. And at that time, our expectation was the country was going to shut down for 3 weeks to stop the spread. And lo and behold, we were already experiencing really high demand at that point. We had, in January of 2020, we debuted 32 new models of the 3D grips, 3D scales, which shot up demand.
Oh, yeah.
And then you couple that with COVID, couple that with super high demand, and we have just been buried in work for existing products. So I've said it 1,000 times, why isn't a 3.0 made? It's because we've always slotted new product into the corners of the year where the machines aren't running.
Yeah.
Well, there hasn't been any time when
They
the
haven't
machines
stopped
they
running.
haven't stopped running, and we've never had more knives back ordered than we have right now. So that first year, the Rollins are just trying to, figure out how to keep their head above water when it comes to not being buried in work. And then the second year, same deal, and now we have blown through, super high demand. Now we've blown through material. Now we're starting to experience some of those supply chain issues. I think we went 6 months without 1/4-inch steel.
Yeah.
And that's the SE5, the CL1, the cleaver, and the Gibson axe. And those are all pretty good sellers for us. And we went, I can't remember how many months without it. So brings us to an obvious question, is why are we debuting the Pinhoti now? And that the answer to that is really simple. This is going to be a limited run of 300 to start. Our normal runs now on new product is around 2,000. So why is this limited to 300? It's going to be numbered 1 to 300. We will do a follow-up run after this, starting with serial number 301. And that answer is really simple, is we trademarked the name, the Pinhoti, which we'll talk about at some point. We trademarked that name more than 3 years ago, and we're going to lose the trademark if it doesn't go into commerce. So we're doing this. We're not making somebody's order for existing product simply because we've got to make a minimum number of these so that we don't lose the trademark.
It expires this month.
September 3rd.
So using it in commerce, if you sold me this one, that should be good.
No, not according to our patent attorney and trademark attorney.
He'd probably know more.
He knows a little more, I think. So that begets another question: is this is the first 300? This is going to be a limited production or limited run on this first one. This first production run, oftentimes, is 1,500 to 2,000.
Where are they going?
They're going to be going to Blue Ridge Knife Company, and who is a distributor, and then it's going to be a free for all from there. So whatever dealers want them, we'll get them. And then the answer to your next question is, I don't know. And then the subsequent questions is, I don't know. I don't know when we're going to make another batch. I do want to get back to kind of how the sheath thing worked out, but while we're on the production side of things, this is our first folder. There's going to be 300 now, and there are going to be hopefully a lot more later.
Those first 300 will go real quick.
I think so.
What do you think? Do we have a approximate price on it?
I'm waiting on that information from Sean.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be in line with, because of the machining and manufacturing in this, I'm guessing it's going to be in line with an ESEE 5.6 price, give or take. And in this first 300, they will be numbered sequentially 1 to 300. So whatever. I think one of those is 0000, and one of them I've been using 0001 for almost 2 years now, actually, in the field. The one that's got the lanyard on it there.
So you've used that one?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I pulled that one out of plastic just for photos in this past week. So I wanted to answer that question. To get back to what comes with it, and I want to talk about that real quick, is one of the issues that we needed to solve was how to carry this knife. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted something that we could safely carry. I like the neck carry, but that's not for everybody. Yeah. And so at SHOT Show 2020, I'm carrying around this prototype in a neck sheath, and Spin from JRE Leather comes up, and he shows me this sheath that is, he's like, let me show you something. And we're fortunate to have a lot of people in the industry that are innovators that have some cool ideas, and we trust those people and they trust us, and we bounce ideas off each other and we want feedback. I know Patrick and I get a lot of opportunity to test a lot of gear for a lot of people, because they know we use it. We're in the field quite a bit. So Spin came to me, wanted to get some input on the sheath. And what it is basically is if you're familiar at all with HSGI Taco mag holders, it's a leather. It's essentially a leather taco mag holder. It just so happens that Spin's original design, if you see right there where Christian, hold that back up to the video. Okay, so you can see that the tang's sticking down. You can reverse this 4 different ways based on how you want to carry it. You can tang down, tang up, flip it either way. Conversely, the sheath is really cool because Spin was designing it and wasn't really sure what he was going to use it for, but it also holds double stack Glock mags, 1911 mags,
Leatherman tool,
and so
flashlight.
That's flat. Yeah, so flashbang if you spread it out far enough.
There you go.
So it was one of those things where Spin didn't realize that we had an application for that, and we made, or I asked him to go back and make a few modifications, and one of the modifications is he put this little cutout or the little took this little corner out, so now it clears the tang well. And I think the sheath, so every knife's going to come with this sheath. That's part of the package. This is not an inexpensive sheath, so keep that in mind when you see the price of the knife. But I think honestly, people are gonna wind up using the sheath more than they are the knife, in some respects, and that may mean that somewhere down the line we sell those. So Spin gets a royalty on that. Thanks, Spin at JRE Industries. He makes phenomenal stuff, and I appreciate him working with this because that was really the missing link. To
so they're strictly belt carry.
A belt, you could do a neck carry on that if you wanted to. You could put it on molly webbing if you wanted to, but there's no secondary retention on that.
Can you safely carry it in your pocket anyway, or is it?
All right. So your question is, can you safely carry it in your pocket? I would probably say no.
Any kind of friction folder, I would be real hesitant on carrying it in the pocket.
Yeah.
These are fairly tight
now,
but it could loosen up a little bit. You can always tighten it back. But just carrying it in your pocket, if something got bumped or whatever, anything that's going to expose the point or the edge.
So it could open up in your pocket
Yeah.
if you're not.
So we've done that. I did that podcast with Black Flag Nick at Black Flag Survival, and we did that hashtag Crush Your Comfort Zone 2022 challenge. And I have an open nail number 9 that I've had for a long time. I love the knife. Really simple to use. Not a friction folder because it does have a twist lock. The knife's so used that even the twist lock doesn't have, like, it just doesn't hold it,
Yeah.
you know. And so I was carrying that Opie in my pocket, and it opened a few times, and I was like, this is probably not going to work. I would have the same fear with this, so I would definitely say a belt carry, a pack carry. If you wanted to do a paracord lanyard on that particular sheath, you could certainly do it around camp or something like that. Okay. So, all right, real quick on construction, 1095, made by Rowan, Scandi ground, same heat treat, same warranty.
1/8.
1/8 inch stock. Yeah, that I really wanted to go thinner, but that's as thin as we wanted to go. It's using the same brown micarta that the PR4 and the JG5, so that's the same scale material.
Yeah.
It has a brass pivot pin, and so it has it's called the Pinhoti. The Pinhoti is a local trail that's kind of near and dear to my heart. It means a lot to me. So
You spent a lot of time on that, hadn't you?
what's that?
On the Pinhoti?
Yeah. On mountain
bike.
mountain trail running. I mean, it's a lot of good memories. Few bad ones, but make for pretty good stories.
Few wrecks.
Yeah, I've wadded up on a mountain bike on more than one occasion on the Pinhoti. So I just, for me, names ought to mean something.
Yeah.
And so I named my bike shop Bear Creek Bikes after one of my favorite mountain bike trails, and over in the Cohuttas, and the Pinhoti, it runs off of that trail. So there's certainly a thread there as to what it means. It's not Saddam's. It's actually S. Adams. My name. I told Jeff and them I didn't really want my name on it, but they made me put my name on it. So it's S. Adams on there.
Saddam's.
But hopefully that'll be worn off at some point. Yeah. So I brought Christian in because he knows nothing about friction folders.
This is the first friction folder I've ever actually held. I did the prototype, but
right.
You were talking about old straight razors. So is this like an old school design? I mean, because like in my adult life, I don't think I've ever come in contact with a.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the funny part about this is this just goes back to me going to gun and knife shows with my dad and seeing like tables of straight razors back when people still use straight razors and being enamored by them. When I designed this knife, no other big company had a friction folder, and I think 5 have hit the market since I started designing this thing. Patrick knows what I'm talking
Every
about.
time a new one would come out, we're like, no, not another one.
So that's okay. They beat us to the punch.
Can't beat the warranty.
But I will say that the knife is a knife that's made to be used.
Yeah.
I did not want it to be a novelty, and it's something that we talked about within the ESEE crew quite a bit. It's one of the reasons why I made sure to hand it off to people that use knives a lot, and once you learn the limit, like I just believe that any knife you have has limitations, and you got to work within those limitations. Are you going to baton with it? No, or you shouldn't. It's just not made for that. But at the same time, can you do some really good tri-sticks and bushcrafty kind of stuff with it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got to play around with the prototype, and man, you can't beat it. It's just the Scandi grind on wood. That's basically what it's designed for, and it does great.
Right, it bites.
Yeah, a sharp edge is a sharp edge. Different grinds do different tasks. Some do it well, some not so good. But the Scandi grind, if you're doing any kind of carving, is the way to go. What's the angle? Do you know?
It's 0. Like it's Scandi to 0. I believe it's the same angle as what
RB3.
our RB3 is.
Looks like it.
It's pretty close. I did some side by side comparisons with that, and I'm really excited that it's, as much as anything, it's our first folder, but it's our second Scandi. I thought about making it in full flat, but I just like the Scandi ground blade for what it is.
Gentleman's knife.
How long is the blade?
3 inches. I've got the full spec sheet somewhere.
I was just curious.
Let me see here. I should know that. So the folded length of the entire knife is 5.75 inches. Opened is 8 1/4. Cutting edge is 3 1/4. Blade thickness is 1/8 or 0.125. Rockwell's going to be the same. Weight without sheath is 3.8 ounces. With the sheath is roughly 6 ounces. And it's designed by yours truly. If you want to know more about the Pinhoti, I think it means turkey in Cherokee.
It's the turkey.
It's the turkey.
Designed by a turkey.
Yeah, very true.
Saddam's.
You're being overly generous. Thank you. Questions, comments?
So I am curious. This mechanism, and I know laws are different everywhere, but I'm assuming that this is pretty much okay everywhere in the States, right? But overseas, is that, I know we had talked a long time ago about maybe applications that it would be different than a folder that's has a lock in it, because they've got all kinds of weird laws over there.
Oh god, yeah. So here's my caveat to that is know your local laws. Yeah. You are responsible for knowing your local laws. I can't vouch for it. That's our attorney, Mike Alford there, making sure that it's on you. The onus is on you to do your research. Man, Europe is tough because like their countries are smaller than most of our states.
Right.
And you could drive through 3 countries in a day really easy, and even within those countries, different hamlets have different rules. So when we went to EWA back several years ago over in Germany, that's one of the things we are really trying to get. It's impossible to nail down, and they're changing culturally. They're changing quite a bit too, and so I would believe that knife probably poses less of a legal threat than a lot, because the issues over there are, for whatever reason, serrations, one-handed opening,
which you can't really
and a lock, and so some of those countries have these weird combinations that if it opens with one hand, it can't have serrations.
Yeah,
it's just strange. So check your local laws there.
But there's 50 million jurisdictions. And,
yes,
and so there's no.
But I think. This is not a knife I really want to do a whole lot of super stabby work with, because there's no lock on it. So it's going to wind up maybe amputating a finger if you're not careful there. So being once again, understanding the limitations of the tool, this is not something I'm going to want to take one of Ed Calderon's classes where I'm stabbing a pig or organic medium.
Are we going to offer the trainer models?
So Patrick's asking, we have a bunch of different 3D models that are printed right here that we use to test ergonomics and really test out. Those are printed at Jeff Randall's house. Jeff got on SolidWorks. That particular one broke right there. That was the one that I carried and used in theory a lot. There's a lot of hands-on time with these, just pretend time. Of checking different grips and different things just for the ergonomics, and so
pretend
Whitland. Yep.
This is the final, right?
So that is the final production there. Yeah. And funny enough is I've had a lot of guys. So after Cody and I talked, and he came out with the 3D version after we debuted the 3D scales, that really changed the look of the knife, changed the feel of the knife. And then, so I sent that knife back out to some of the same guys, and they loved it. But there's a few that actually said they liked the flat scales too.
And that's me with our other knives, like the AGK with flat scales. That's used it a bunch. That's what I prefer. But some of them, I like the 3D better.
Right.
It differs from model to model.
They have a different feel, and we've talked about it. Potentially, it might make a good fixed blade too.
Yeah, it definitely would.
And so I like the ergonomic. I don't know. Honestly, I've considered. I don't know if I would. I've been pushing for years to make a puko, and while it's not a puko, I've been looking at if I would change the ergonomics on that at all. But the way the knife tails off at the end there of the handle, it just fits in your hand well. So I'm not sure that I wouldn't just leave it just like it is to make a fixed blade on it, because it's a very ergonomic knife.
Any thoughts on? I know that this is way on down the road, but any thoughts on different grinds? So offering a full flat.
Full flat. I'd like to see it in S35. I'd actually like to see this folder in S35.
Yeah.
I think the folder would be a really good application for S35.
Oh, yeah.
A full flat, I'm down for whatever.
Yeah.
And that would be one of those things where it will go back to customer feedback, as far as, man, I'd love this in a full flat. If we did it in a fixed blade, I'd like to keep it in a scandi, though, and at least initially, just because I just like that grind. I like for kind of purpose built for that. If we wanted to do something that was taken, I think if I were going to do something that where you baton take a lot of beating, I'd probably move it from a full scandi to a flat.
Yeah.
And then convex the edge. Personally, we wouldn't do that from the factory, but that's I personally convex most of our edges.
So it looks like to me you've got a kick-ass little blade you can use as a bushcraft tool that also can have a shorter overall length to stuff in a pouch or something, or do like that. I mean, like, what are you getting with this over, say, if this thing was just a fixed blade, or if it was, I mean, I guess if it was a lock-in folder, it would just be another lock-in folder, right?
Right.
So you're getting the friction folder mechanism, which is just cool on its own. It's unique.
And
I know you talked about not wanting to be a novelty, more as like, because it is a purpose-built tool still.
Right.
I mean, that's what I was seeing. You're talking about it's got a scandi grind. It's able to be used for bushcraft purposes, for woodworking, whittling, and other things of that nature. So for me, I would think that, you said it's got an 8-inch roughly overall when it's unfolded,
yeah,
and about
I think 8 1/4,
about a 5 folded. So I mean, it's got a smaller footprint.
Yeah, it's a pre-broken knife, which
yeah.
means you can put it in a lot of different places.
Pre-broken, but it also just seems like still, I mean, you said it was complicated to get the mechanism to all work together with links and stuff.
It's just the tolerances of where to, like, moving that stop pin which you can't see the stop pin, it's in the handle.
Right.
Okay, but moving that pin a millimeter either way
can change it.
Makes a massive amount of difference. And so whenever you close it, making sure that this blade is not like
that,
and then not being too far, it was a lot. It took a lot of trial and error.
Also, the way it's designed, you wouldn't want anything down here that the edge is constantly going to be in contact with.
Right.
Going over time.
Yeah. So that R&D's done, though. So it's good. It's good to go.
It's good to go. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just saying, for the end user, it seems like a really simple mechanism where you're not going to have to worry about a lot going wrong, as long as you're keeping this tight. And because I've got as many folders that work that don't work at home.
Yeah.
Because they're broken, and I haven't gotten around to warranting them or fixing them. Obviously, none from y'all, because this is the first one. But still, there's something to be said about that. So
it's simple.
It's simple
in
a good way.
Yeah. So for me, that's one of the things I like about what we do with Bushcraft and some of the other stuff is I think there's a lot of friction folders that used to be used 100 years ago. So I don't know. It's something I designed it because I liked it, and the funny part about it is I showed it to Jeff, and pretty early on. And then it was like a year later. He was
How do you feel about it at first?
I got kind of a shoulder shrug.
Yeah.
Like, meh, and I wasn't hurt by it because it's not.
That's nice, Shane. That's nice.
Yeah. Look at the pretty drawing.
Get back on social media.
But I do remember he and I brought him back to this table at my first SHOT Show. I was like, we could make these. And our issue, the reason the Izula Folder hasn't been made is because we've been working on a lock design, and we're close. And this is a brand new patented lock design that we have, and we wanted it to be ours, top to bottom. And so I can talk about this now, and we have some things, like we could have bought an Axis lock and paid Benchmade or somebody like that to do that. It's a great lock, works well, but we just wanted to do something on our own. And so because of that, it's taken a while. And I'm okay with that. We're okay with it. Now, we have a lot of people that don't understand that process, but they're just going to have to get on board with it when it does. And so we're closer now than I think we ever have been, and we're still working out some sniggle points within the lock. Yeah. We've shown this lock to a lot of the heady folks in the industry, and they're like, holy cow, that's really simple, and it works really well. Now we're having to figure out some manufacturing. Don't start asking me about the Izula Folder. I don't know.
Coming soon.
Yeah, coming at some point. I haven't given up on it. We haven't given up on it as a company, but we want it our way, kind of like Burger King. And so
isn't there some like cost prohibitiveness when it comes to because like, y'all are all in the States only, like very compliant. So making a lock, figuring out, and trying to keep it out of like custom knife prices, where you can produce it, make it make sense for like the guys who want to carry it every day and won't worry about carrying a super expensive folder.
And I've always called us the Glock of knives.
Yeah.
Like we're a working man's tool
type
knife. So we're the, Craftsman, Black & Decker, Snap-on is kind of the high-end mechanic side of things, but we're tools. We make tools, and we want to make them
tools.
We are tools, and we want to keep them affordable. In the sense, but it has to work out for us as well, and it would be real easy for us to go make a $400 or $500 folder right now. Right, that could have been done a long time ago.
Is that part of the reason why some of those folders haven't come to fruition in the past?
It's cost prohibitive. I mean, it's a cost thing. Like Patrick's probably carrying DPX right now. And Robert Young Pelton makes some killer folders on those DPX folders, super burly. I mean, we could literally knock something like that off and be done with it, but that's really not how we just do it just to mess with Robert. Plan. Yeah, but it's not what we want to do. It's not what we want for our folders. And I brought Jeff back. I was like, we could do this now and make something that's unique and different. At the time, nobody was making. Like I say, when I first pitched this idea, nobody was doing this in the industry on a larger scale. And then it kind of fell flat. I showed him the folders. He thought the folders were cool, and it's from some small company in South America. This folder is vastly different from that in the sense of they were a little more decorative. Yeah. Kind of pocket jewelry. Mm-hmm. And then I swear it was like a year later, one of our high level business meetings at Cracker Barrel in Chattanooga. He's like, "Hey, you got a sketch of that friction folder?" And I was like, "I just happen to have it right here." He's like, "Show that to Mike." And then we started talking about it. And then man, before you know it, he got fired up about it and liked the design. And at this point, I'm glad the evolution's kind of taken as long as it has, because the knife's vastly different now than what it started, and I think it's going through that refinement process. But I'm pretty pleased with it.
Pretty slick. You were talking about the South American ones being more decorative. This is slick. This is nice. That's good.
It's a far cry from where we started with just our regular traditional micarta.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked about it. So if you guys have questions, what do you got? Anything else for me? I knew this was going to be a pretty short one, but this thing should be hitting dealer shelves maybe before I get this podcast edited, or it's going to be shipped. We're going to be trickling these things out. Most of this first run, a lot of it will be done by hand. Like, we are still figuring out tooling for production and other stuff. And so I know that Blue Ridge will be getting shipments of 25 or 50 at a time until we hit that 300 mark. And then after that first 300's gone, I hope we make more. We plan on it. But,
I see this doing well.
So we'll see. questions, comments?
Are you gonna make one with a skull on the side?
Sadly, the skull logo is relegated to Reynolds Adventure Training Products, and anything that has ESEE on it will have the ESEE placard on it. But
That's good enough.
I appreciate you just ripping off all the scabs.
That's good enough.
All right. So we talked about the Izula Folder. We talked briefly about 3.0. Same deal. COVID. Waiting on new stuff. We talked about the Pinhoti friction folder and the skull. We pretty much hit all my hot buttons.
All the hot buttons.
What about the AGK and S35, Shane?
We debuted that in January of 2022, and I'm still waiting. We're still. I know that we have never carried as much back order as we're carrying right now, and I think if you put an order in for us, we're telling people like 4 to 6 months right now. We're that far behind, and so thank you to the people buying our stuff, but also we appreciate your patience because we had hoped to have the AGK out, and I keep saying it, we're in the passenger seat on all this stuff. We've never experienced this high demand, and we've never experienced the limitations and challenges in manufacturing and labor and all that stuff that we're experiencing right now. So as soon as I know, trust me, no one wants that 3.0 and the AGK out more than I do.
Josh Edwards.
Well, John. Well, I want it more than Josh because he annoys and hounds me. So
quit bothering you about it.
Yeah. So I've got 100 Josh Edwards, and so we are really, really hoping that gets done at some point. But don't expect. I honestly wasn't sure whether we'd get this done or not, and we had to move it kind of to the front of the list out of necessity, or we would have lost the trademark name on it. And then that's a pretty expensive process. So it is officially in commerce.
Big shout out to the Rollins for getting it done.
Man, and I know the Rollins those folks are experiencing some really, really long days, and we appreciate the work they continue to do. And also to our dealers, I know our dealers are catching an earful from a lot of folks too, because I get emails almost daily. Hey, has this been discontinued? Has this been discontinued? Yeah. And the answer is no. We haven't discontinued anything. We just can't get it all made and keep up with demand. So that's it. The Pinhoti friction folder, designed by yours truly. Hopefully you'll like it. Hopefully we'll be able to get a few of those out into the public. I welcome your feedback and input on those. But appreciate you guys being here. Put me in the hot seat. That was actually a little less than what I was thinking it would be. I'm a little disappointed. I was expecting a little more, but
a little more shenanigans.
Yeah. But hey, thanks again to Christian and Jake's Bistro right here in wonderful Calhoun, Georgia, right off I-75. What exit is that, Christian?
312.
312. He's made somebody a good wife. He's a very good cook. Stuff's good.
Those are your words.
Yeah. But
you promised we wouldn't talk about that again.
I know. But we appreciate it. Y'all look for the friction folder, Pinhoti friction folder, at a store near you. Thanks, guys.
Want to see one in every home.
Yeah. It'll be a little bit.
Good stuff.
No, you got me scared to talk shit, because I'll start cussing and stuff, and then,
create more work for me.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with the COVID fog.
Yeah.
And that's the part of it.
My wind is not where it was.
That's exhaustion and then the trying to
from last 2 weeks ago.
think.
Christian,